back a few weeks later for another checkup to discover something else wrong with his heart. At this point, they were telling us that I was told that he probably would have learning disabilities because of what they had noticed during the pregnancy. He's 5 years old now, and he's actually the brightest in his class. So what I'm saying is that there are children that the doctors can be wrong about. And the second story I want to tell is my sister's child. Little baby Lily was diagnosed with hypoplastic right ventricle syndrome plus 4 fatal conditions 2 years ago in Crumlin Hospital. She was 20 weeks pregnant with her at the time and was told that she should terminate. Linda was horrified, that's my sister. She refused point blankly to ever consider something like that, and they told her that they would withdraw healthcare from the sick baby. So a week before little Lily was born, they saw that she had improved miraculously and thought they might try this procedure on her. When little Lily was a day old, they performed the procedure, literally telling us that we might as well cross our fingers and hope it works. And after the procedure, the right ventricle of her heart actually started to beat. It hadn't been beating before this, and it started to beat. They told us, right, okay, you've gotten over this hurdle. Another year down the line, we'll repeat it, and hopefully she might get to 12 years of age. They repeated it a year later. That child has been told now she will live a perfectly healthy life till old age. These are two incredible stories where it just proves that sometimes doctors don't know what the outcome will be. And I'm just saying that if we repeal the 8th Amendment, parents will be put under pressure in every pregnancy to terminate for sick babies. It has happened in England that parents are given this no option. This is the flyer you get when you have a sick baby with a so-called terminal illness, that you are to terminate. That's what we're looking at if we repeal the 8th Amendment. Actually, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, and I'm proud to be standing here today on behalf of the Abortion Rights Campaign to suggest to you that the 8th Amendment as a toxic legislation in our Constitution should be repealed. And it is a toxic legislation, let's be honest. It is designed not to protect anyone during pregnancy. It is designed purposely to control the sexuality of women. That's what it was for when it was first developed. That's what it was for when it first came into being, and that's what it is doing now. It is aimed to protect, to control the sexuality of women. We heard from the first speaker and the second speaker that there are different circumstances that we should be looking at, that women in pregnancy should be supported, that women in crisis pregnancy particularly should be supported. We agree with that. We definitely need more supports for women in pregnancy. But a blanket ban on abortion does not protect women in pregnancy. It does not protect their choices, and it does not protect their rights to make those choices for themselves. The 8th Amendment takes away choices not just in access to abortion, but also in pregnancy. And we believe that should be repealed. Women that are overwhelmed in pregnancy should be supported. Women who regret abortions definitely should be supported. But forced pregnancy should not be the answer. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about forced pregnancy. These are women who have come to the conclusion, having weighed up all of their options, having spoken to many, many people that they know, having spoken to their parents, having spoken to people with children, having spoken to pregnancy agencies, and they have decided for themselves that they are not ready to be parents, or for one reason or another they cannot continue with the pregnancy. And we don't think they should be forced to. So just to say, the first speaker said that abortion is not safe. This is a lie. Very, very plain and simple. And yes, tragedies happen, and yes, they should be highlighted, definitely. But the World Health Organization has the abortion pill on its list of basic and essential list of medicines. This is the basic care that the Irish government and the Irish health organisations should be giving to the citizens. The abortion pill, for anyone that doesn't know, is anything up to about 10 weeks of pregnancy. But of course, then you get into the discussion of, oh, well, then maybe you're just for early term abortions. And that kind of raises the issue of good abortion, bad abortion. We at the Abortion Rights Campaign believe that there is no such thing as good abortion, bad abortion, and you cannot divide it so simply. Because no two human beings are alike, no two pregnancies are the same, and a blanket ban or a blanket legislation does not support the experiences that different people go through at different points of their lives. And of course, we know from the different organisations in Britain that the blanket ban that we have on abortion has not stopped abortion. 12 women a day, up to 12 women a day, leave this country. As we are having this debate, 3 women are packing a bag to get on an early flight to go to the UK. And that's only the people that we know about. 10 women a day to 12 women a day leave this country to access abortion in the UK. Now, there is this discussion at the moment about like abortion on demand, and I want to put it to you a different way. What we advocate, and sometimes it can be called abortion on demand, what we advocate is a free, safe and legal perspective when it comes to abortion. And why do we do that? Well, let's take it in turn. Free. People can argue with that. But the fact is that a rich woman can leave this country. A rich woman doesn't have to worry about heating or lighting versus food for their children. A rich woman can get all of the supports that she needs. She can leave, have an abortion, have a week off work, and have the best healthcare and aftercare. Poor women, migrant women, and women who have not got any travel documents, they cannot do that. It's often cited that, rich women have abortions, poor women have babies. And that's exactly what happens. If you cannot raise the €1,000, €2,000 trip to the UK, then that's what happens a lot of the time. But now what we're seeing is, even from customs, they will tell us, they are stopping the abortion pill coming in. And as I said, this is on the World Health Organization's list of essential medicines. They are proud of the fact that they are stopping these medicines from coming in. But what they don't tell you and what they don't know is how many are actually getting through. I know for myself, from experience, that many, many women in this country take the abortion pill. And what happens is they're taking it on their own in closed doors. And because of the stigma, they're afraid to talk about it. So when the first speaker says, there are women who regret abortions, yes, that does happen. But many, many more don't. In fact, I have had the pleasure of speaking to many, many women over the last couple of years since I came out and told my story about having an abortion. I've had the privilege of discussing other women and their experience. And what I find, what the family planning associations find, is many women actually feel a sense of relief. It's done now. I can move on with my life, I can develop, I can have children when I want to have children. So what I would say is, instead of looking at women as children themselves and they cannot and should not be able to make this decision because they're too stupid or they're too silly, or we just haven't got it right with the supports, let's put our faith in women. Let's make the decision that if we are going to support a woman's right to have a child, let's trust them with the decision of whether or not they want to have a child in the first place. And I think if we have that kind of society and an open society and we're able to talk about it, and women who regret are able to speak and women who don't regret are able to speak, if we stop silencing women and give the voice back to them, we will actually have a better, healthier and happier society. Having said that, the Eighth Amendment, repealing the Eighth Amendment, is not going to give abortion on demand because, as Alba rightly says, we have the Protection of Life During Pregnancy Bill. And what that does, I'll finish up, what that does is it criminalises women who access illegal abortions, so abortions that we don't like. but we don't know about their lives or why they came to those choices. So the Protection of Life During Pregnancy Bill is still going to be enacted in this country. It's still going to criminalise women. Yes, we can work towards that, and yes, we can bring in different measures to oversee real abortion legislation, but first of all, we need to repeal the 8th Amendment and have a decent conversation about abortion.
And we move over to Owen O'Connell from the Defence.
So the first thing I just want to reiterate is that the 8th Amendment protects both the life of the mother and the baby. It does not say that the life of the baby is more valuable or more important than the life of the mother. So what we're actually talking about here is removing rights from a section of society. We're discussing taking away fundamental rights, the right to life, from babies in the womb. And it's inconceivable to think that we'd actually stand here and talk about taking away the rights of anybody else here in this room or anybody else in any other section of society. We'd never stand here and talk about taking away rights from people. The reason that we do that with the unborn is because they're an easy target. They can never speak up about the pain that they've been put through. They can never tell the world about the experiences. They can never tell the world about their experience. They can't stand up for themselves, they have no voice, and so they're an easy target. So the question is the preborn child alive and is she human? And the answer is absolutely 100% yes. And this should be obvious with the advances we've made in embryology and technology. Leading medical textbooks such as Langman's and Moore's Embryology confirm that life begins at conception. And even former President of Planned Parenthood, Dr. Alan Guttmacher, acknowledges this. He says there's no other point where we can say that life begins. So it's ridiculous to think in this day and age, when we have ultrasounds and 4D scans of children popping up in our news feeds every day, that we would even question this scientific fact, that these children are alive. Yet people continue to use offensive language like blob of cells to describe these children and to discriminate against them. And you're discriminating against these children based on their stage of development and their degree of dependency. The truth is, like, we were all embryos. We were all humans at that stage of development. And what we're actually doing is we're singling out these children and we're discriminating against them based on their degree of dependency and their level of development. So the truth is that women deserve better than abortion. And finding a better answer can be challenging and requires more from us as a society. And we need to show that we can love both the mother and the baby and provide them with real medical care, real compassionate support, and not this medieval answer of abortion, which leaves women hurt and a baby dead. Now, abortion campaigners will deny this. They'll deny the reality of abortion, and it's pretty obvious since the abortion industry has already been widely exposed by the torn up corpses of its victims. It is a brutal procedure. Abortion campaigners deny that abortion hurts women. And I must say that I find this particularly revealing because the evidence published in peer-reviewed literature shows that women who've had abortions are 30% more likely to experience mental disorder and are 6 times more likely to die by suicide, according to a 13-year Finnish study. 6 times more likely to commit suicide. I really think that we need to think about that. If we really care about women's health, if we really want to help women, if we really care about mental health, this is something that should make us stop and think. 6 times more likely than women who go through with their pregnancy. Abortion is not about providing choice for women. On the contrary, many women feel pressured into having an abortion. It becomes an expectation, not a choice. And the last speaker actually alluded to this, the idea of we're removing all of our supports from you if you decide to go through with this pregnancy. It's becoming an expectation. And a study by Roux et al., published by the Medical Science Monitor in 2004, found that 64% of women felt pressured or coerced into having abortions. 64% of women felt pressured into having an abortion. Now, coercion can include loss of home, job, family, and even violent assault. And a survey carried out by David Reardon in 2002 of women who sought help after abortion showed that a shocking 83% of women said that they would have carried their baby to term if they had been given the adequate support. Even worse, women who have worked as counsellors in abortion clinics have actually testified that they have actually been encouraged, been told to encourage women to have abortions. But this is not choice. I would argue that too many women faced with an unexpected pregnancy are left looking after the baby while their irresponsible, shameful men just leave them with absolutely no support. And it's a gift to these men. It allows them to avoid their responsibilities. We have seen how abortion has been used to repeatedly cover up rape. So I have so many examples of this, but I'm just going to use a famous example of Jimmy Savile, who sent 2 of his victims for an abortion. He's just one example. Choice has become an expectation. And some men feel that their responsibility begins and ends with paying for an abortion. I just want to talk about rape for a moment, because I think that is probably one of the greatest arguments for abortion. Certainly it was something that was very difficult for me to reconcile. I know women who've been raped, and it is the most vile, disgusting thing that can happen to a woman. And I really believe that these men should be punished to the maximum. It's the most distressing, horrible situation a woman can be in. But I just want to, again, allude to the humanity of the baby. We don't punish children for the crimes of their fathers. These are children at the end of the day. And I just want to allude to a study that, you'd be surprised to find out. I was actually shocked with this study that by the Rape Crisis Centre in 2010 suggests that the majority of Irish women, almost 80% in 2010, decided to keep their children after being raped. Okay, so I just finished. We should have progressed as a society where our instinct is to protect women and children and to provide them with real choice and real support. This is a medieval answer to a crisis pregnancy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Connell. And now finally, last speaker inside property, Harry Grady.
Thanks very much. Thanks everyone for coming out. It's a great crowd. Got 7 minutes, so we're not going to get deep in, but I want to address maybe a central issue as I see it. I think when you have to, I think it was George Bernard Shaw said, "I'm sorry for writing you such a long letter. I didn't have time to write you a short one." Saying things quickly, not always easy, but it focuses the mind, the personal and the political. Personally, I've no disagreement with anybody who spoke from the anti-choice side, except that they're anti-choice. Okay? They're very much in favour of anybody who makes their personal decision being protected by the law. But perish the thought you should make your own decision about what you want in your circumstance, and that doesn't accord with the very narrow confines of what the anti-choice side think you should do. Now, what do I mean by that? There is a minority of people, I would guess, these are just broad strokes, who think, I'm never going to have a child. If I get pregnant, it's going to be an abortion because I don't want to have kids. And you can hear almost immediately the little, but you might change your mind. You might, decide to have a baby. Everybody thinks that almost automatically. And if somebody says, oh, I'd never have an abortion. Abortion's a terrible thing. It's the killing of a life. And I completely disagree with that. To me, it's like murder. So I'm never going to do it. The voice is a little quieter, but we can still hear it. You might change your mind. You never know what might happen. You never know what circumstances you might come across that you didn't either think about in advance or you didn't really know what it would feel like to be in them. But still, I think, besides that little voice, we don't speak that voice out loud, usually. Why? Because of respect. If someone says, I'm never going to have kids, if I got pregnant, it would definitely be an abortion. I mean, you might go, okay, right, have you thought about that? And listen to them, see what they have to say. The same as if somebody says, as many of the anti-choice side do, I would never have an abortion because I think it's wrong. Now, I think the majority of people think, I don't know, I think maybe in some circumstances I would. I think if it was the time when I was planning to have a child, I wouldn't because I was planning to have a child. So I have a pregnancy, I'd start to think, baby, I hope. There's an old thing, I remember a priest telling me years ago, he said, how do you make God laugh? He said, tell him your plans. And you always have to be extraordinarily careful when you talk about these things. And so when somebody says baby when they're pregnant, I don't go, oh, no, it's a fetus. It's like, no, to them it's a baby. They're making a prediction, and they've every right to do that. And what we all should do is support their decision. And if they change their mind, support their new position. And if they ask you for your input, give them a hand. And if they tell you to mind your own business, mind your own business. Now, if it were just a matter of politeness, I would now sit down. But it's not that they are interfering with the decisions of people they have nothing to do with them, but they are threatening them with 14 years in prison. Okay? Now, as one of the speakers said, it is amazing that we're even questioning this. Well, I have news for them. We're questioning this. This is a democracy where we have every right to question this. Currently, we're under threat of imprisonment for questioning this. And I'm going to come back to that in my conclusions. Okay, so when we consider the different positions a person can be in when they find themselves to be pregnant, there is a minority who are going to say, I decided years ago I wasn't going to have kids. I think it's a small group of people. People can come back in on that. There's a small group of people, I believe, if you look at the opinion polls, and particularly when you consider the age group that get pregnant and have babies, they are 15 and younger, unfortunately, to 44, and sometimes a little older. The vast majority are in that age group. Okay? And sorry to break it to you guys, and for anyone who slept through biology class, but they're all women, every single one of them, right? And when they make their decision, if they decide not to have a baby and they decide to have an abortion, if they decide to have a baby and not to have an abortion, yes, we all want them to have the facilities, the best facilities available to them. The thing I find extraordinary about the anti-choice movement here and in the United States is you can guess how bad maternity services and childcare services are in a state or in a country by asking yourself, how strong are the anti-choice laws? It is quite incredible. So while it is often said, oh, we want to love all of them, the mother and the child, if they really cared about babies, okay, and what I say is fetus until I know the person's attitude. If they're saying they want an abortion, I refer to it as a pregnancy or whatever they ask me to refer to it. It is, again, only common respect. And if they say they're planning to have a baby and refer to it as a baby, then that's what I call it too. In Ireland currently, we have restrictive abortion. There were 26 abortions last year. That is well less than 1%. So it does exist. I'm going to sum up. Let's not mistake the personal for the political. If you personally decide to have an abortion, not to have an abortion, what everyone here should do, in my view, is support you. What they should not do is threaten you with 14 years in prison. So, my conclusion. I think that the 8th Amendment is going to be repealed. I think that is a foregone conclusion. Okay? I'm not going to argue about that. I presume the vast majority of you will vote to have it repealed. What I'm going to ask you to do is campaign for it. Let us do what we did with marriage equality. Let us do for women's rights what we did for LGBT rights, and we were right to do it. And we knew that the old church establishment, still being criticised in the paper today by Mary Collins for covering up child abuse, we knew they had gone away, and we knew now was a new time in Ireland when we could make new demands. I think that's true, and the time has come also for abortion to be freely available in Ireland. And I mean on demand, on request, in keeping with what the woman herself who is pregnant decides. The only doctor who should decide is the one who is pregnant. I'd uphold that right for all pregnant doctors. Second, we have to go on from that, decriminalise abortion, get rid of the PLDPA, and get rid of the 1995 Information Restriction Act. And finally, every woman out there who decides that she is not going to travel and spend thousands of euros getting an abortion, who takes the pill at home, who looks up www.womenhealth.org, gets the medication for about 100 euros within 7 days. If there is a threat of prosecution and jail for her, let's all get out there, get in front of the court and say, not in our name. We will defend any woman who breaks the law. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, what if we gave in? After all, they talk a very good talk, don't they? I mean, it's all compassion and generosity and openness and equality and, oh, it's all wonderful, until you start to look and see what's under Alva's magic carpet. It requires us to give up one of the most foundational stones of civilized society. We do not end human lives. We do not end human lives. But still, let's pretend. And let's think about it. We've given in. We're going to repeal the 8th Amendment. You get your way, Patter. But what's it going to look like? What's it going to do to babies? What's it going to do to women? What's it going to do to doctors? Well, let's think about it. Luckily, at this point, we don't need to imagine what that society would look like, because as some of the speakers have already discussed, we can look at our nearest neighbour, England. Abortion was introduced there in 1967, and we know what it's done. Today in England, abortion is legal for up to 24 weeks for no reason, and it's legal up to birth if the baby is diagnosed with any disability. That's led to a situation where 90% of babies diagnosed with Down syndrome are aborted. To me, that's absolutely appalling. I'm sure that you agree with me. Think of all the people that you know in your life who have Down syndrome. They have a right to be alive. In England, not so much. In England also, they're perfecting the test so that they can make sure that they highlight Down syndrome even better than they're doing it at the moment. Then there was the story of the family who already had 2 children with learning disabilities. The mother fell pregnant a 3rd time. She couldn't cope with the situation because of the lack of services in England, so she decided to have an abortion. She went to Macclesfield District Hospital, and her baby survived the abortion and lived for 3 hours. Now, she was told that the baby wasn't really alive, even though it was breathing. She was obviously very distressed about this situation and said that she would never have considered an abortion if she knew such a thing could happen. If she had been properly informed by the pro-choice lobby in England, she would know that that happens, because it happened 66 times in 2008. One of those babies survived for 10 hours. That's a baby struggling to live and eventually dying alone in a hospital corner. These are horrific statistics. This is the cold face of what abortion does to a society. And unfortunately, the pro-choice lobby in this country are a disgrace because they do not tell you what you should know. They will tell you, come to our parades, come to our rallies, come to our protests, wear your badges. But God forbid that you might actually be told the facts about the type of society that you as young people could be creating for yourselves if you repeal the 8th Amendment. Today in England, 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in abortion. Think of 4 people in your life. Which one of those 4 could you do without? There are 4 people on each team this evening. One of those 4 wouldn't be here. Many would say they would be happy if it wasn't me. I'm quite happy to be here, and I suppose that's the problem with Padder's argument. You see, you can't say it's personal and political, because it's very personal to me to be here, and I'm sure you feel that way about your own life. That's the problem. Abortion is personal. We don't end human lives, and we can't just whitewash a couple of lines out of our Constitution and think that it's not going to make the difference. It makes the difference between people who are walking on the street, thanks to the 8th Amendment, and people who won't be walking on the street if we repeal it. That's what's going to happen. Last night, somebody sent me a tweet. They said, "You've been brainwashed by the patriarchy, Sherlock." I thought about it. It's not the worst thing anyone said to me on Twitter. That was probably something that started with C for Cora and ended with next Tuesday. But you know, the one thing that really does annoy me is when people say that because I'm pro-life, I'm anti-woman. I'm not anti-woman. I'm not even anti-choice, Padder. I'm actually pro-every choice, except the one that ends a human life. So when it comes to women, it really, really annoys me, because if you're going to be pro-life, for heaven's sake, or if you're going to be pro-choice rather, for heaven's sake, look at what abortion is doing to women. Listen to them. Listen to what they're saying. This is Adele Best from the abortion recovery group Women Hurt. And she said, "I was racked with guilt and anger that nearly destroyed me and sent me down a path of self-destruction, wrecking every relationship I had. Slowly, I also lost my self-esteem." Listen to Emma Beck. Emma was an artist who aborted twins, and she didn't recover from her abortion. On her 30th birthday, she ended her own life by suicide. Her mother shared her story so that other people would know that abortion can devastate a woman's life, and there may be no way to know whose life it's going to devastate. I'm very happy when I hear that women recover from abortions. I also wonder, how do you know whether you're going to be one of the lucky ones? This is what Emma said in her suicide note. "I see now that I would have been a good mother. I died when my babies died. I want to be with my babies." At the inquest into her death, the GP said that it is clear that abortion has a profound effect on a woman. Now, the question this evening for you is to ask yourself, was Adele Best brainwashed by the patriarchy? Was Emma Beck? Or were they simply women who bought into the myth that you can have an abortion and have no adverse consequences whatsoever? What I want to say this evening, ladies and gentlemen, is that if there are men or women in this hall who are suffering after an abortion, please step away from the national debate. Get away from the noise and, sometimes the aggression of what can be said, and get help, because you do deserve help and peace of mind, and I guarantee that you will find it. I want to talk about the hard cases. Let's forget about the term, the hard cases. It drives me crazy. There are no hard cases in abortion. If you've ever dealt with trauma or devastation in your life, then you know that the word hard doesn't even begin to cut it. There is no word suitable for the type of circumstance that leads a woman to consider an abortion. Desolation might come close, but it doesn't really get there either. I want to talk about doctors. In February this year, at the National Abortion Conference, a number of abortionists came together. I will finish very quickly. They can't talk publicly because they have to protect abortion and the reputation. But they did talk among their colleagues about what abortion is doing to them. They talked about the violence, about heads getting stuck, about how they feel inflicting pain deliberately, and about their coping mechanism. One doctor talked about the baby fetus having reverence for something that was once alive but now is not. And they talked about eyeballs rolling onto laps. Again, this is horrific, but if we repeal the 8th Amendment, we will have our own abortion conference. I'm finishing right now. I want to say this. We don't end human lives because in this sometimes desolate but nonetheless beautiful world, we recognise that all of you have a right to be here, a right to be heard, and let us give that same right to everybody else. Thank you very much.
Just into this microphone. Grant, thank you. Before we go on, we'll do a very brief Q&A because I know people need to be gone by 9. I'll make sure that all speakers are out of this room by 9 because they're busy people. If that's okay with the speakers. Yep, I'll get you all out in time. So that gives us about 22 minutes. For that reason, what we need to encourage is brevity. So if you have a question, please keep it to 10-15 seconds, and I'll then allow the speaker, who's probably more interesting than you, 60 seconds to answer that question. What I will say before we go on is I would like to thank all the speakers for what was a fine debate, and I think if we can give them a round of applause for giving up their time this evening. So what I'm going to do is we have some mic issues, so if you'll be quiet, the natural acoustics here should sort the problems out. So what I'm going to do is, if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand. I'll give you 15 seconds to ask that. At the beginning, do point to either the panelist or the panel to which you want that question to be directed. So, questions. Go.
Okay, I'm from Italy, where the abortion is legal since 1978. And I'm actually surprised there are still people with a closed mentality that wants to keep Ireland so behind compared to the rest of Europe. Well, also it's not true that clinics and
15 seconds.
hospitals, that's it?
5 seconds.
Okay. The clinics and hospitals, they practice abortion to earn money. Also, I want to ask you, basically, so according to Irish law, you are allowed to travel abroad to practice abortion. So if you can afford it, you can choose, you have a choice, you can choose what to do with your life. And if you cannot afford it, you have no choice. So don't you think it's socially unfair?
Okay. Is that directed to a particular panelist or the panel in general? Any? Sorry? A particular panelist or the whole panel? I'll pick. Okay, so if one of you, if anyone wants to answer that?
Well,
Great.
thank you for your question. Your question really is saying is that it's unfair that we're discriminating against a woman who's rich and a woman who's poor, right? But how we see it is we think it's unfair that you're discriminating between a wanted baby and an unwanted baby. And we don't think it's fair that we should have a society that actually, and I have to say this, violently ends the life of a human being. And so that's the answer,
Great. Yeah, no.
You said that the abortion industry doesn't make money from abortions. Now, several former workers in Planned Parenthood in the States have testified to the fact that they've actually been asked to double the amount of abortions to increase salary. And this is a fact. This has been, and Abby Johnson was just one example of someone who said that they've actually wanted to double their profits for the fiscal year. So this is a fact. So it is an industry, and they do make a lot of money from abortion.
Great. So 1 second. No one others. I'll give yourselves 30 seconds if you want to respond.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think the hypocrisy of the anti-choice side is that there is abortion in Ireland. Okay, this notion that you're all defending Irish women against abortion, you're not. What the questioner is bringing out is that those who access abortions, particularly when travel was the major obstacle, really did divide against those who were too sick to travel, like Savita and Panama, Those who were too young, and in fact the ex-case, even though she was too young to travel on her own, did travel and actually only became suicidal after she was denied an abortion. People who were restricted by their migrant status, like the White case. The White case, if you read the detail of how that woman was raped, decided she wanted an abortion, and went months and months and months begging to have an abortion, but was unable
45
to
seconds.
The trauma of that question becomes really obvious. However, there is now, if you get your pregnancy diagnosed early, there's still an issue of privilege involved. But this is why I would advocate people get detect their
60 seconds,
earlier,
thanks.
get the abortion done, take it. If you run into trouble, go to your GP, go to your A&E, tell them you are having a miscarriage, which is true, and they will look after you. And
Okay.
that will help to overcome
Thank you.
that damage.
I'll keep the time stamp so you all get the exact same amount of time. What I will do is I'm taking note of the exact time. So there's a 15-minute. All I'll do is if questions asked, they'll get a minute to respond, or vice versa. If an individual takes too much time, I'll give the exact same amount of time in the next one for the other panel to keep balanced. Okay. Grant, next question. Preferably don't do an intro, just ask a question. Grant.
My question for Padder. As a doctor, could you describe for the room in language that we can all understand how you would perform an abortion on an 8-week-old?
An 8-week fetus.
An 18-week-old fetus. In language we can all understand.
Okay. Just a little bit of background about me. I'm a child psychiatrist. If I perform an abortion on you at any weeks of gestation, I will stick it off the medical, but I am teasing.
Give details of what you're
Certainly, as a child psychiatrist, I'm not going to carry it out, but I'll talk about, insofar as I understand, my GP of everybody what happens. At 8 weeks, you get a choice. Okay? You get a choice between an evacuation and a medical procedure, i.e. the abortion bed. Increasing numbers, particularly in Ireland, because of the whole travel thing, are opting for medical abortion. Something like 50% of abortions in the UK now are carried out with an abortion bed.
I actually said
18 weeks.
18, yeah.
Okay, 18 weeks. From what I understand, again, dilatation and evacuation is what is carried out. There was some mention of dilatation and curettage earlier. That's not that commonly carried out anymore. I think what doctors argue
1 minute.
is, with regard particularly to later abortions, in 18 weeks, about 1% of abortions is more than 20 weeks. So the vast majority is less than that. And about 1 in 1,000 is more than 26 weeks. But we
Thank you, Doctor.
is that they are as, I don't do this from a child psychiatrist. You can, listen,
So
people talk about information. There's this wonderful new device, I don't know if any of you young people have heard of it, the intranet.
Doctor. That was 1 minute 30. Do you want to respond? Doctor. Please, doctor.
In my view.
Doctor. Do you want to respond?
Sorry, it's me again. I shouldn't have done that. But I just think it's interesting, Padder, you didn't actually answer the question. Yes. The question asked about the procedure. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. So I think it's a pretty direct question. How is an abortion performed in plain English? And we didn't hear the actual procedure. Now, it's very gruesome, it's dismembering, it's inserting poison into a child's heart to give them a heart attack. And we talk about it, just interesting, and when you talk about it not sometimes being a fetus and sometimes being a baby, can I just give 2 examples? The Irish government has launched the 1,000 Days campaign, and that's basically saying that the first 1,000 days of a baby's life, starting at conception, are the most important days of its life. They have spent millions on TV ads, on websites, on press ads, basically on one hand acknowledging it's a life, and on the other hand it's not a life. How is that so? Secondly, if you look just even in journalism, very tragically in the Oma bombings, We had unborn babies who died. Those babies are recorded, grieved for, and written down
115.
as human beings. They are utterly human beings in every other context, and I think it's interesting that the only time we ever talk about a baby not being a human being is only ever in the context of abortion.
Thank you. Next question. Oh, yourself?
So the first questions you asked, maybe you didn't answer it properly, but I didn't get you clearly. So the procedure behind that is that dismemberment requires you basically splitting the baby's body apart into different components.
So, sorry, to clarify what was asked, was he asked that dilation presumably involves splitting the baby's body apart?
The anti-choice family love talking about dismemberment. Okay? They love talking about detail. Can I just say, right? One of the things that I would advocate
Let him speak.
is that if they're about to have a medical procedure, they get the information on it. This notion earlier that doctors sometimes get it wrong. Is there anyone in the room who has got to third level college who doesn't know that doctors sometimes get it wrong?
Oh my God,
Anyone? This sort of, you can take your time, I'd love to hear a question from you. Anybody who wants to take part in a procedure will get advice by their doctor what it consists of. You can get the most graphic detail on the internet. The thing about informed consent is, one, you should need to consent, and you need as much information as you require. Not that the anti-choice brigade wants you to sit through, as they do with teenage children in schools, forcing them to watch videos of a procedure they may never...
1 minute. I also want to get to Ms. Smith.
So my advice is, there is a load of good information out there if you want to watch the most fine details of what the procedure is. It's on the internet.
Great.
The question specifically was, does dismemberment happen? Has that ever occurred during
Yes or no?
Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Delayed abortions, and the whole point in the abortion debate is that we have abortions as early as possible and as late as necessary.
But you speak of safety procedure, and that's a component of what a safety procedure is, according to your review.
I have no idea which one was safety procedure.
Your site spoke earlier about, I think maybe it was a pro.
I'll let you collect your thoughts, and I want to get Corla Shirk to respond. She wants to respond. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
You can.
I just on those questions about dismembering. I don't want to talk about the graphic details of abortion. Nobody does. That's why it's horrific, and that's why we don't want it in this country. What I do think is very interesting, though, is how Padder has sidestepped it. So he will get up here and talk about marching around, but nobody on the pro-choice side wants to talk about it. And it's fair. To be fair, Padder, nobody ever does. Don't start talking again, please.
Right,
Don't start talking again about not talking about it. But, here's the thing. I am delighted this evening because I came tonight and I thought that there was going to be, no one would talk about abortion on demand, that phrase. The pro-choice side is at least being honest about one thing, and I will give them credit for that. They all want abortion for no reason, free, safe, legal, right up to birth. That's really what we're hearing from them this evening. It's widespread, and that's fair. Thank you for being honest, and hopefully we can have an honest debate on this level without the pretense of restrictive abortion, because we know it hasn't worked elsewhere. It will not work in Ireland. Not that I think we should have a restrictive abortion anywhere, but at least they're honest on that point.
So before moving to my next question, I want Ms. Smith wants to respond to.
Yeah, well, I'm not terribly sure about all the sidestepping there. I mean, it seems to me that there's a lot of deflection going on here, because certainly what happened to me, and I think a huge number of us who have been campaigning on this issue for a very, very, very long time, is to ensure equality and justice and fair treatment and an end to discrimination against women in our health services. And I believe very strongly, and I think everybody on the panel does, that what really matters here is the decision that the woman comes to make with the advice and the support of her medical advisors. So if she decides that she wants to go and have an abortion, she should be getting the support to have that. And Cora is quite wrong. A woman never has an abortion for no reason. There is always a reason. It just may not be a reason that pleases people who are against abortion. And that
15 seconds.
That Heather did actually answer the question, and she made a really important point, which is that the tiny number of abortions in any jurisdiction which take place after 21 weeks, and the even
10 seconds.
tinier number that take place after 26 weeks, are carried out for extremely good reasons, which have to do, generally speaking, and I am not the less of a medical practitioner than Heather, not at all, but they're carried out for reasons of good health and well-being of the woman. And let's bear that in mind. I can't imagine
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
equality in this world unless a woman has control over her fertility and her reproductive
Ms. Smith, do you want to use your time to respond or another question? It's up to you.
No, let's have a question.
You sure? Well, I haven't got to that side of the room. Yourself, Glass? Sorry, Glass. Yeah, so you know.
Mine is a comment actually to the third speaker. And before you talk about how the eighth amendment is taking away rights from the baby, well, first, my comment is that the language of a baby should be maybe unborn or a fetus, and that with the eighth amendment, you don't reflect like the reality of the pregnancy, where you consider mother and fetus like symbiotic, but you're considering them like antagonists, and you should look at the woman as a body that is doing the sacrifice to carry out the pregnancy, and she should take the decision for her body. So I don't think that the eighth amendment is actually taking away rights.
10 seconds.
But is referring to the human rights of the woman. So I would like to comment on that.
Yeah, you said that you don't think the 8th Amendment is taking away the rights of the baby.
Yeah, the baby. And
Yeah, well,
it's not a baby.
just to reiterate, the last speaker said that he asked very simply, is your definition of safe abortion the dismemberment, the pulling apart of the limbs of the baby, or giving the baby lethal injection? To me, that is taking away the rights to a baby. When you dismember a human being, or when you give a human being a lethal injection into their heart, that is taking away their human rights. And you're saying that the woman's body, I just wanted everyone to acknowledge that there are two bodies that we're talking about here. It's not just the woman's body. There is a separate body inside the woman. And we're discriminating against that person because of their degree of dependency and because of their stage of development, and actually not even their stage of development. It seems irrelevant to the pro-choice side what stage of development they're at. But we're discriminating against them because of their degree of dependency. We need to recognise there are two human beings involved, and it's not safe for either of them.
You guys still have another 30 seconds if you want to use that.
Sorry.
You have another 30 seconds if you want to use it. Because in the interest of keeping everyone fair in terms of time. I can move. Yeah.
Sorry, just very briefly as well.
36,
Yeah. Is when a baby's inside the womb, they have a completely separate DNA to the mother. I'm speaking into the mic, but it's not on.
Oh, there you go, trying to.
Hello? Yeah.
Great.
So basically what I was going to say there is that when a baby is inside the womb, from the very point of conception, they have a completely separate DNA to the mother. They have a different gender. At 3 weeks, they have their own heartbeat. At 8 weeks, they're developing their hand movement. At 19 weeks, they're sucking their plummeting back against the limb in a separate brain with completely separate organs. It is actually a separate human being. And if you think about it, a lot of people say, well, it doesn't look like a baby, right? A newborn baby does not look like a 6'5" athletic basketball player. There's different stages in your growth, and we all change, we all grow, our bodily changes. This is the first step. And can I just say, these are the youngest, most vulnerable members of our society, and they need our protection. Thank you.
Right, so in the interest of getting these nice people out when they need to be out, we have time for one more question, okay?
Just a question to the third speaker on the pro-life,
life side. I'm kind of glazed over the whole topic of rape. Like, what are you going to do for that woman who was raped? Like, what are you going to do for her? She can't get an abortion, she can't afford it, she's getting morning sickness from a man who tortured her, who might have mutilated her, left her bruised, basically could have left her for dead. Like, what are you going to do? How do you think that's beneficial to her life? She can't take an abortion pill, or she can't readily get the service that she needs. First of all, I feel like it's trauma, like it's absolute trauma. How could you advocate that?
First, I completely agree with you that it's trauma.
You said 80%, oh, keep the babies. Like, oh, 80%, yeah, like that's
I'm shocked.
Okay, question. You will have a response now.
I was shocked at that statistic. I actually thought that maybe every woman in that situation would want an abortion. I really did. As a pro-life person, that's what I thought. But I'm suggesting that we help these women in every single way. I'm suggesting that abortion does not take away the pain of rape. It's not a solution. It doesn't take away the fact that you've been raped. These women need absolute support after they've been raped. They need support to help raise their babies. And they need our compassionate care and support. And the idea that, like, oh, give them an abortion and the whole thing is fixed, done, problem solved. They don't actually do that anymore. And I also just want to say, like, to avoid that statistic, like, that 13-year-long study in Finland that said women are 6 times more likely to commit suicide after an abortion. Imagine a woman who's got to deal with that and a rape. And I also know
15
people
seconds.
who've been conceived in rape. And it's so insulting to say to them, well, you should be dead because your father is a rapist. You shouldn't have a right to live.
Do you want to respond to it? Yeah. Shh. Response.
Well, I did mention that I had an abortion. What I didn't mention was I was raped, and I had an abortion from the rape. And may I just say, I will never regret. I don't think I'll ever regret my abortion. It was my choice. And at the time, even if I do come to regret it, it was my choice at the time, and nobody can tell me that I was wrong. But can I also just say that what youth defence kind of claim is love them both. Love them both, yes, but let's force women to be pregnant against their will. And this is the issue. It's not about birth, it's not about any of that. It is about pregnancy. Are you willing to allow people, or are you willing to, force people to be pregnant against their will? And I can tell you as a rape survivor, no, abortion doesn't clear up the rape. It doesn't help dealing with the rape. But you know what else doesn't help? The fact that as a rape survivor, we cannot get abortion support or abortion aftercare because access to information is illegal. So
15 seconds.
So most professionals will not deal with aftercare for abortion because they're afraid of 14 years imprisonment. That's the fact. And people are afraid to go to their GP and tell their GP. It was 6 months after I came home from having an abortion that I went to a doctor because the stigma is so devastating. That's what kills people. It's the stigma, not the actual event.
It's 9 o'clock, so what I'll do is that if people actually promise to keep to 60 seconds, actually promise, 2 people in mind, each side can offer closing remarks 60 seconds. If you want to nominate between yourselves, get someone to do 60 seconds or so, and then that will be our debate. Well, if you, Cora seems to be ready, so she wants to go ahead first. Yep. I like choreography.
Yeah, sure, hold on.
Yeah. I'll make it 90 seconds. 60 seconds is very short.
60 seconds.
90 seconds.
90 seconds. Oh, that's a bit better. It's been a really interesting debate, a hugely important occasion, and I'm certainly incredibly encouraged, and I think everybody on the panel on our side for the proposition is very encouraged by your response here tonight. And what I want to say to you is that Peadar is right. You know, we're going to have to work to repeal the Eighth Amendment. It will be repealed, but it won't actually do it on its own by itself, any more than the marriage equality referendum happened because just suddenly, light shone down from the sky and beamed at us all in Ireland. On the contrary, au contraire, we got out there on the doorsteps. We're getting out on the doorsteps again. We're on social media. You're all on social media. Hashtag Repeal 8. So we keep on and on and on until we get to the point where a government is obliged to call a referendum to repeal the Eighth Amendment, which is a danger, a threat to women's lives, and which is a huge blot on our record for equality, on our international human rights record, and which is just simply a disgrace. And I say that again as someone who's been fighting this, first of all for myself in 1983 as a young woman who would definitely have had an abortion had I had an unplanned pregnancy. And I knew that, and I knew I was not protected. I went on fighting for my daughter because I knew that I would not want her to face into what so many women of my generation had faced into. And now I'm fighting it for my granddaughter. And frankly, it has to end here. We cannot go on and on and on. Women deserve our equality and our human rights. We deserve the right to make decisions about our own bodies. Nobody tells me what to do with my body. Nobody. But that's exactly what the Eighth Amendment does to women in this country. So I'm saying, take a badge. Take a leaflet. I'm going to leave them.
So our proposition got 2 minutes 18.5 seconds, no cheating, and our opposition will get precisely that amount of time.
Thank you.
2 minutes 18.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one word that we've heard a lot from the pro-choice side here this evening is equality. And equality matters. We're all equal here this evening, and that's a good thing. But we won't all be equal if we repeal the Eighth Amendment. We will be creating a second-class system in this country. Some of us will have a right to life, and some of us won't. Contrary to what the pro-choice campaign would have you believe this evening, women receive whatever treatment they need while they are pregnant. Their lives are not in danger in Ireland. Ireland has one of the best maternal care facilities in the world. It was better before we introduced abortion in 2013, and it remains to be seen how far down the world rankings we will slip because of that terrible error brought about by the pro-choice lobby. What I want to say this evening is that I agree with some of the statements that have been made by the pro-choice speakers. No two people are the same. People are unique. One person who has been aborted will never live again. They will never have their right to live and enjoy what we all enjoy. I would like to commend Vanessa for telling her story, and indeed Jerry and Helena for telling their stories this evening, because it is very difficult to tell a personal story, regardless of which side of the debate you're coming from. I would also like to say to Padder, when he said that people who are pro-life in this society should essentially mind their own business. But we don't say that about people who are taking other actions that will affect the livelihoods and the welfare of others. If I see somebody getting into their car who is stociously drunk, do I say to them, that's okay, go ahead? No, I don't, because they may kill somebody. So I'm sorry, Padder, you might like us to butt out, but we have no intention of going anywhere. We are here because we believe that human rights matter, human beings matter, women are protected in Ireland, and we are going to fight like hell to make sure that the Eighth Amendment is not repealed. I invite you to find out more about it. Don't take anything I have said as granted. Find out for yourself, because you're all intelligent people, and that's why you're in a university. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the Repeal the Eighth hashtag.
So, we've done it before, but certainly sorry, 1 second, do it again. Just like to give a round of applause for everyone to give their time to speak this evening.
How are you going to keep them, guys? How are you guys doing? Ring the porters. Now, okay, how are you keeping, guys? I just want to let you all know that outside, I just want to let you guys know about 3 things going on right now outside. Outside, if any of you guys are interested in signing up for the DIT Law Society, you can sign up right now. We have debates every week. We have pizza outside for everybody else. And hold on, guys. And if anybody would like a drink, we have an area reserved for all of us in Balkans across the street. Thank you so much for coming. Have a lovely evening, guys, and I'll see you soon. Ladies.